Hey guys, so I've been following a couple lawsuits for a while now, and in case you've missed the headlines, I'm just going to share these with you real quick. There's a general lack of accountability with our current state of affairs. Any kind of minor victory that we can get is got to be promoted, and also these kind of set a precedence. Like this one, for example, here, this peach grower won $265 million from Bayer, who bought out Monsanto a couple years ago. All their farmers can follow suit. We can just sue the pants off of them. In the big picture, this is not going to do a lot of damage to the companies at all. What it does do is provides a little bit of hope and, like I say, accountability. And if we can hit their profit margin, that's really how we get their attention. I mean, of course, it's the negative energy that's generated that beats the profit out, but they're not going to do anything that does not profit. So if we can impact that a little bit, and if we can use the court system against them, or we're so used to having the system used against us, but if we can reverse that and use the system against the perpetrators, that'll be a major step forward. So I just want to hit over this article right here. U.S. peach grower awarded $265 million from Bayer and BASF in a weed killer lawsuit. And Missouri jury awarded $265 million to peach grower Bill Bader, the state's largest peach farmer, $15 million in actual and $250 million in punitive damages. Now, this is going to be pretty excessive, in my opinion, so take him for all that you can. But he says that, his 1,000-acre orchard was irreparably harmed by the herbicide, which drifted onto trees from nearby farms. Bayer, of course, says that's nonsense, that it's completely safe, but of course they're going to say that. I mean, these guys are the ones that made DDT and Agent Orange, and, The lawsuit was against product Dicamba, the herbicide alleged to have damaged tens of thousands of acres of U.S. cropland. The herbicide becomes a vapor and drift for miles when used in certain weather, farmers have claimed. Bayer said that they are extremely disappointed with the jury's verdict, and of course, they are appealing. Bayer faces separate multi-billion-dollar litigation over the Roundup weed killer made by Monsanto. Bayer bought Monsanto for $63 billion in 2018. We believe the evidence presented at the trial demonstrated that Monsanto's products were not responsible. Now, of course, they're going to say that. Bayer and BASF face other Dicamba lawsuits that could begin late this year before the same judge in Missouri. So the same lawyers are representing all these people. And that's who's really profiting off of all of these suits. Now we know that these guys are wrong, no matter what they say. It's been proved in court. In November of 2018, the EPA imposed restrictions on the use of dicamba over concerns of potential damage to nearby crops. So the plot thickens when you look into this stuff that Monsanto created a GMO soybean that is resistant to this herbicide. So once again, we see them, with their drought-tolerant tomato seeds, because all the droughts are engineered. Aluminum-tolerant seeds because of the high chemtrail fallout over the breadbasket of the United States. So now this stuff, the dicamba, there is tolerant seeds. That's really what the agenda is. Let's just kill off all the competition, anything natural, anything that's not made up in a laboratory and that they can't profit off of. So Monsanto created this dicamba tolerant seeds. When they spray this stuff over their fields, it turns into vapor, and the vapor drifts miles away, and it's killing everybody else's crops. And they just got sued, so now there's precedence that other farmers can sue them also because, they're liable. The second big case that's been resolved, Facebook was ordered to pay over $500 million over their facial recognition. Now, facial recognition is already here, it's been here, and it's not going anywhere. Your data is going to be mined, it's going to be harvested, your biometrics, your DNA, fingerprint, your iris scans, all that stuff is worth big money to a lot of people. So anybody that thinks that is not going on right now, and that Facebook was started as a surveillance platform, I mean, of course they're going to be harvesting your biometric data. But this is about accountability. It's from Illinois. If you live in the state of Illinois and you use Facebook, you have to figure out what you got to do to get part of this, because every Facebook user in Illinois is supposed to get a couple $100 from this lawsuit. This one is a little bit more tricky than they did just lose. They tried suing Google too, and they didn't win the lawsuit against Google. The judge ended up throwing that out. So I think that this is the first time a major social media company or a major tech company has been held liable for what they do with your personal data. The case against Facebook has been ongoing since 2015. The lawsuit alleged that Facebook's initial version of its tag suggestions tool, which scans the user's face and photos and offers suggestions about who that person might be, stored biometric data without user consent, violating the Illinois Biometric Information Privacy Act. In 2018, Facebook began more transparently explaining to its facial recognition tech to users, pointing people to a settings page where they could disable it. Last year, the company decided to make facial recognition on the platform opt-in only, after years of turning it on by default for all years. So this company knew that the lawsuit was filed in 2015, and it took them years before they still turned the facial recognition off. It was on by default. Now you have to voluntarily turn it on. Facebook's $550 million settlement will be paid out to eligible Illinois users and to cover the plaintiff's legal fees. So the lawyers are the ones making all this money, and they have got so many lawsuits against Google and Facebook and about everybody. The same law firm, just like in the previous article, how the same law firm is handling all these different farmers and their lawsuits against Monsanto and Bayer and the agro-tech companies. This particular law firm here is handling all these users against these, the biotech lawsuits. And while $550 million may seem like a large settlement, it's essentially pocket change for Facebook, which today reported revenues of $21 billion for the fourth quarter. And they'll be made up for it somewhere along the line. They're going to find a way to backdoor it in. When you click on the user term of agreements, it's going to be backdoored in somewhere where you're not even realizing. When you just consent to something, you're going to be giving permission to these companies that they can do whatever they want to with all your biometric data. This isn't the first time the Illinois Biometric Information Privacy Act has been tested in court. The plaintiff sued Google, but that's the one that was thrown out because the judge found the plaintiff didn't suffer concrete injuries. Snapchat was also sued for allegedly violating the law, and no word if it was successful or not. If you're interested in that kind of thing, there's a good lead for you. A little background on the Biometric Information Privacy Act and what makes it so unique is that you don't have to prove that you've been harmed. It was passed in Illinois first in 2008. Washington and Texas had passed similar laws. However, the BIPA remains the only law that allows private individuals to file lawsuits for damages because they violate. Normally, it is up to the state to determine some kind of punishment, but in this case, that's not 100% true. Here's one interesting that it was Six Flags was sued for collecting park-goers' thumbprints without informed consent. The state court of appeals ruled that mere technical violation was insufficient to remain in action. However, it was reversed by the state Supreme Court, which rules users do not need to prove an injury. The mere violation was sufficient to collect damages. You need to pay attention to these little laws. Use the system against itself. We are playing by their rules, whether you choose to acknowledge it or not. There are certain parameters that we have to abide by in this fabricated existence we call reality, and one of them is the legal system. We could just have to use these precedents. So whoever's in charge of making these laws, find out and write them letters, start the petitions, talk to lobbyists, do whatever you can, because the companies do not want this. They don't want anything interfering with their profits. We're going to start seeing some major changes. If these little lawsuits, but what they do is they establish accountability. These are just two of them that's happened recently. There's got to be handfuls more, but I'm not getting into that right now. I just wanted to everybody and say, hey, look, any victory that we can achieve has to be celebrated. So that's it. That's just the news headlines for today. Peace. I'm out.